Near the end of World War II, a well-known occultist named Manly P. Hall thought there was something wrong with the world. Things had to change. In spring of 1944, he made a startling statement. He said, "To make things right, we will have to undo much that is cherished error. The problem of revising the Bible shows how difficult it is to do this. For the last 100 years, we've been trying to get out an edition of the Bible that is reasonably correct, but nobody wants it. What's wanted is the good old King James Version, every jot and tittle of it, because most people are convinced that God dictated the Bible to King James in English." In another vlog, I asked the question, who is we? Let's take that apart right now, and while we're at it, we'll see what the Sinaiticus might have to do with it. Hi, I'm David Daniels from Chick Publications. To make things right, we will have to undo much that is cherished error. For the last 100 years, we have been trying to get out an edition of the Bible that is reasonably correct, but nobody wants it. By we, it seems that Hall is referring to some very high up people in the occultic and the political world. That was the focus of his 1944 article, Asia in the Balance of the Scales. And with friends like 33rd degree Masonic President Franklin Delano Roosevelt and other leaders, Hall probably felt able to pull it off. Listen to these quotes from the same article. "In the next 10 years, we will have to rebuild a world civilization. I hope for some psychologists and even philosophers to be among those appointed to administer this problem. We are thinking now of a world police force. We will first perhaps try to make a great world plan. We will sit at a council table and figure out how to iron out the troubles on the earth." Then this quote, "The way of that conditioning would be the one used in Central Europe to condition Nazi minds. There, the circulation of an ideology began in the public schools, began with a small child, which is where we will have to begin, and educate not only our own people, but the peoples of the world. And we will have to have 5 generations of the consciousness concept of democratic cooperation before we can create a world capable of mental and emotional tolerance." Let's count the generations after World War II, shall we? 1946 to 64 were the baby boomers, that's 1. 1965 to early 80s were Generation X, that's 2. Mid-80s to early 2000s were the millennials or Generation Y, that's 3. Mid-2000s to now are Generation Z, the 4th generation. So, how are we doing? Pushing mental and emotional tolerance and democratic cooperation through psychology and philosophy from kindergarten? There's a whole lot of conditioning going on. In fact, I just saw today that MTV asked 1,013 to 14-year-olds which of the proposed names they wanted their generation to be called. The majority of them wanted to be called the Founder Generation. These teenagers born after 9/11 supposedly have a stunningly intuitive sense of the changing times they've been born into and the huge opportunity that lies ahead to make new history. Right here out of this article, the Founder Generation founding a whole new world. What do founders do? They abandon the old and start something new. Guided by whom? Who are their teachers? We are barreling toward a one-world government by Manly Hall's own standards, and we're only in generation 4. But Hall had a problem with a certain group of people. What's wrong with them? What's wanted is the good old King James Version, every jot and tittle of it. How did his we try to pry the King James out of people's hands? For the last 100 years, we have been trying to get out an edition of the Bible that is reasonably correct. Occultist Hall wrote these words in what year? 1944. What happened 100 years earlier in 1844? In 1844, according to text scholar Konstantin Tischendorf, he began to acquire Greek vellum pages that ultimately were named Codex Sinaiticus. You know, the document behind all modern Bibles and Bible-doubting footnotes, even in the New King James. Are we sure that Hall meant the Sinaiticus? Let's check. Manly P. Hall wrote strongly in favor of the Sinaiticus. Here are 2 powerful quotes from the same 1944 magazine. I just got this together, pieced it in by snippets today. Listen. The Codex Sinaiticus is a manuscript of the 4th century of about the same date as the Codex Vaticanus. And here, this manuscript is one of the great books of the world, and down here, it is sufficiently important to justify considerable revision of our popular conception of the scriptural writings. In other words, changing the Bible. From his monthly letter, New York, April 1st, 1935. Yes, it was April Fool's Day. He wrote, "Of importance to students of occultism is the fact that the Codex Sinaiticus contains many passages suppressed from the published Gospels. These passages in many cases greatly alter the significance of the text." And what did he think of the King James? In his Student's Monthly Letter, 4th year, number 5, he complained, quote, "But what does this mean to the average Bible student? This enthusiastic jot and tittle worshiper will insist that the words of the King James Version are the very words of God himself." And in his monthly letter of November 1st, 1934, he wrote, quote, "The King James Version of the Holy Bible. This translation teems with errors and is hopelessly unreliable from a scholastic viewpoint, yet popular acceptance has caused this misversion of Holy Writ," yes, he said that, "to come to be recognized as infallible, so that the religious public would now reject a correct translation. In fact, it has already shown its attitude in the matter by refusing a revised edition. For over 300 years, erroneous theological notions have been circulated, deriving their authority from the King James translation of the Bible." So, let's add it up. This occultist, Manly P. Hall, wanted what? A new world order. 2. Only 2 things stop this new mental and emotional tolerance: the thinking of the people and the King James Bible. 3. People in general trusted that the King James Version in 1944 was the words of God himself translated into English. So that's not, brothers and sisters, a new idea. 4. The Codex Sinaiticus with extra words, and maybe referring to the Epistle of Barnabas and Shepherd of Hermas that are stuck on at the end of the Sinaiticus, offered hope as a new occultic-friendly Bible, quote, "of importance to students of occultism." Those are Hall's words, not mine. 5. There were 2 goals. 1 was to condition people's minds, like the Nazis, over 5 generations. And those born post 9/11 our generation 4 and 6. Goal number 2 was to pry the people's jot and tittle Bible-trusting hands away from the King James Bible. And the Sinaiticus was the occult world's answer to that problem for them. Are you saying that trusting the Sinaiticus and the Bibles derived from the Sinaiticus is a step toward occultic and New World Order thinking? That's what this occultist said. Not me. I'm just putting it all together. So, if you trust the King James Bible as God's preserved words in English, guess what? By Hall standards, you are intolerant and a hindrance to one world government. Each Bible that is made from or trusts the Sinaiticus is not just another Bible. It's the doorway to losing trust in the King James and being open and tolerant toward the New World Order. At least that's what a top occultist who communed with world leaders said. You can't hide from this. This is the elephant in the living room. You can't avoid it. Do you want to be a part of the New World Order? Then don't trust your King James Bible. There must be some pretty spiritual things in the King James to get occultists and NWO people so riled up. If for no other reason, that's a huge motivation to get a King James, pray to God for understanding, and put my trust in its holy words. Look, do what you want. For over 17 years, that's what I've done. And despite all my years of training and study, I have never regretted that decision. Please take this decision seriously. Take your time. Think about it. It's bigger than you can imagine. God bless you and have a wonderful day.